It's good to see you today. Hope you're doing well. We're going to be looking in the Sermon on the Mount today from the Gospel of Matthew. Our hymn today is Hand in Hand with Jesus.
Once from my poor sin-sick soul, Christ did every burden roll. Now I walk redeemed and whole, hand in hand with Jesus. Hand in hand we walk each day, hand in hand along the way. Walking thus I will not stray, hand in hand with Jesus.
Let's begin, and thank you, Lee, for that, for the effort, of course, that you always put in with songs. Hand in Hand is a personal favorite of mine. Matthew 5, verse 17 is where we will begin. Actually, no, it is not. We need to move up a little bit. We left off yesterday with the Beatitudes, which are there concluding around verse 11 and 12. And then you have the salt and the light passage. And as the Lord says, you are the light of the world. You are the salt of the earth. But of course, salt should not lose its flavor. You are the light of the world, and you don't dim the light. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. And I wanted to begin with that passage. And what the Lord is going to be speaking about is, He's going to say, unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the Pharisees, you will in no way enter the kingdom. And the Pharisees, of course, were filled with hypocrisy. Many of them. And so when we look at the Sermon on the Mount, I think one of the points you can make is this is how you can be effective outwardly. This is how you can be effective outwardly. We'll get to the inwardly here in a second. But here, let your light so shine before men. The Lord wants His disciples to be effective. And so you think about some of the things that He's going to speak about. You know, letting your yes be yes. Be honest. And praying. Don't use vain repetitions. Okay? The Pharisees did all their works to be seen by men. And with that, consider a strange thing. The Pharisees did all their works to be seen by men. And the Lord wants us, based on this passage, the Lord wants men to see our good works and to glorify our Father in heaven. So both works, both Pharisaical works and godly works, are to be seen by men. The purpose is different. The Pharisees, they want the attention for themselves. But when you go through the Sermon on the Mount, what the Lord is teaching, one of the things the Lord is teaching is, okay, this is how to be effective outwardly. Let me just skim through it real quick. Think about anger, reconciliation, okay? How to be effective. Dealing with issues within marriage. How to be effective. Oaths. I just mentioned that one. Retaliation. Loving your enemies. How to be effective. Chapter 6. Giving to the needy. The Lord's Prayer. Fasting. Laying up treasure in heaven. Don't worry about your life. These things. Right? What do? Seek the kingdom. Chapter 7. Don't be a hypocrite. Whatever you want men to do to you, do also to them. Effectiveness. Let's go back up to chapter 5. And just let your light so shine before men. The Lord wants us to be effective towards those around us, bringing them to Him. I think that's one of the points to be made from the Sermon on the Mount. Another point is there in verse 17, when Jesus speaks about the law. Do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For assuredly I say to you, till heaven and earth pass away, not one jot or tittle will pass away, till all is fulfilled. Whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches men to do so, woe unto him, unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees. So one of the other things that the Lord teaches, and what the Lord is doing, is He's showing what the fulfillment of the law is. What He's doing is He's coming past the shadows, and He's getting to the substance. And so all through the Sermon on the Mount, He says, you've heard it said. And then He gives His discourse on it. He speaks to the point. You've heard it said, whoever commits adultery. Well, adultery was sinful. But now He goes and He gets to the root of the problem. He gets to the root of the issue. What He does is, while we are supposed to be effective outward, we have to cleanse the inside of the dish. So He teaches us how to be effective outwardly, but He also gets to the inward man. And it happens over and over throughout the Sermon on the Mount. He doesn't say don't fast. He says, no, when you fast, this is how you need to fast. You anoint your face and you do not appear to men to be fasting. Right? He's concerned about the inner man. There may be things happening outwardly, but this is the inner man that's being transformed. When you pray, go into your room. You pray to the Father. Right? Throughout the Sermon on the Mount, coming past the shadows or showing the fulfillment of the law, getting to the issues, getting to where the Old Testament was the tutor to bring them to Christ. It was the tutor to bring them to a point, and now's the point. This is the point. All of these laws from the old law that all dealt with what you can see and what you can touch and all those things. The Lord was trying to teach them something, and now we're getting to what the Lord was trying to teach them. And our righteousness better exceed the righteousness of the Pharisees, because they just stopped with the outward, inwardly full of dead men's bones. When it's all said and done with the Sermon on the Mount, and we'll talk more about the Sermon on the Mount in future studies, but as you go through, and the title I'm probably giving this video is "But I Say to You," because He says that repeatedly, in case you didn't know it. You have heard that it was said, but I say to you. Verse 22. You have heard that it was said, but I say to you. And it goes on and on and on. You have heard it said, but I say to you. At the end of chapter 7, when the sermon is finished, everyone's astonished. So it was when Jesus had ended these sayings that the people were astonished at His teaching, for He taught them as one having authority, and not as the scribes. And that this is also when the Lord says, but I say to you. And he's telling the people this is what it is. And he's asserting authority. The scribes, they would say, well, maybe it means this, maybe it means this, and the Lord says, this is what it is. And there's an assertion of authority. And so you put it all together, and we rejoice to follow the Lord hand in hand. Because He has the power, He has the authority. He tells us what things are and what things mean. And when we read it, we can understand it. And He teaches us how to be like Him. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another portion of our daily praise.